I came here, I was in a taxi and I'll be like, oh, I'm going to Zouk, and they go, oh, Zouk, and then tell you a story.
No, taxi drivers will say chuk.
Yes,
Zouk.
yeah, okay, Zouk.
Hi, welcome to another episode of The Real Deal. Today I'm hanging out with Andrew Lee, CEO of Zouk Group. Thank you, Andrew, for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to speak to you because we know you in Singapore here as the CEO of this huge thing, a name brand that we know and love, right, for many generations. But you didn't pop out, just as the CEO of Zouk Group. You had a long journey to get there. I've heard that you bounced around a lot for school when you were younger. What do you remember about your time growing up?
Yeah, so I was actually born in London. I honestly think I was a bit spoiled back then. I could do whatever I want. And then went to a very traditional boys' school, the same one that like Winston Churchill went to. My parents, they felt that English boarding school system was actually quite good in terms of growing your independence and kind of really learning to believe in yourself and things.
I mean, you go to this school, you're saying that you're completely alone, essentially for the first time in your life, without your family. You were what, 12, 13?
12, yes.
12? That's really young. What were those days like?
There was definitely a huge growing up. I had to learn my independence very quickly during that time. It was difficult being so far away from home as well. I remember going there and just seeing no Asians there. Actually a lot of boys who came from Asia actually didn't last, through the full kind of like 5-6 years.
Is that true?
Yeah, because it's very tough. And back then you don't have actually WhatsApp. Internet was still coming on board and stuff. So I think a lot of it was just dialing on the payphone and calling your parents and stuff.
May I ask, did you get bullied when you were in school?
It was definitely tough. There was definitely a hierarchical system as well, where the older boys had a lot more power and a lot more bigger as well. I think I remember having to get in a line with the rest of my kind of 12-year-old friends and basically just go down the line and just like punch you, as a part of initiation into the school. But I think in some ways there's you kind of either sink or swim, right? And I think it did kind of prime me a lot for my later years to be able to just be a bit more independent. What can I say? I feel like I peaked when I was like 15 or 16. I know it's very early to peak, right? People peak usually when they're like 40, but I peaked academically I peaked when 15, 16. Both my brothers ended up being scholars. My A-levels, unfortunately, when I got my grades, I didn't actually make any of the grades that would have got me into any of the universities that gave me offers. I was like wondering why, what was wrong with me and why didn't I get good grades like they did? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you're sort of figuring yourself out. Was there any sense of resentment at that age?
I don't think there was a sense of resentment because we were so close, and to be honest, they were so supportive of me as well, to the point where even if I didn't believe in myself, I felt like they believed in me. So I had a degree in psychology and I thought to myself, what do I want to do? And I felt, well, my father was a doctor, so I was like, oh, maybe I should be a doctor. And I realized that I couldn't be a doctor because I went and saw him one time when he was in surgery and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Right? Then one time I was like, oh, okay, if I don't want to be a doctor, maybe I want to be a vet because I love animals, right? And then I remember doing an internship with the veterinary practice, and I was seeing all the dogs inside the cages, and I was like, oh my God, they're so sad, they're crying. So I just opened all the cages, right? And the vet came in and like the animal was running everywhere. And then they were like, okay, you're gone. And I was like, oh crap, okay, I don't think I can be a vet. Academically at university, I didn't do that well either. I got like a third, which is, it's basically one more fail below that would be a fail in terms of my degree. I was applying for everything under the sun in London, and to the point where I was once again getting really frustrated that I just couldn't get a job. I think my mum at the time, her younger sister, somehow managed to know someone at Como, which is actually a Singaporean company. I had an interview and they said, oh, we have a position as a room service waiter. Would you be willing to apply for it? And I said straight away, yes, I would. So I'd basically have to get in there right at like 10 o'clock, and basically I was leaving at like 7 in the morning, right? I was doing the overnight shift. So these are all the people who are like super drunk, when they come back from like the club and they want food and stuff. So you got really kind of like crazy things happening and stuff like that. So and then you usually do the breakfast service at like 6, 7 in the morning.
Did you experience any sort of feelings of shame over what you were doing?
It was tough because then, you've had a degree in psychology, you went to all these good schools. Your parents have also spent a huge amount of money to educate you. I think for sure, like having my mom and dad being proud of me and what I did was really important. And I think at that time, my mom was still being supportive, but I think she kind of also was kind of thinking, where is this going? And my dad was probably full on kind of just like, you need to do something else. I mean, honestly, even for the longest time when I was in hospitality, my father, I would say he gave me a little bit of a hard time on like what I was doing with my life. But that's just how dads are, I guess. I mean, he's done the same thing for both of my brothers, even though they've been very successful. I know he's very proud of me now, like, because he doesn't tell me himself, but I either see it on his Facebook, which is how he seems to communicate his love to me, or he tells his friends. His friends tell me a lot. His close friends. He's like, "Oh, your dad's so proud of you." I was like, I never hear it, but I guess, it's. I'll take your word for it.
And it's funny, that's how they communicate, yeah? You
Yeah.
just have to trust that.
Yeah, exactly.
The job doesn't sound particularly glamorous, especially not considering the fact that you are a degree holder, your degree's in psychology, you've gone to all these lovely schools. Why were you so ready to accept that role?
I just need to get my foot through the door. A lot of times, and I've throughout my career, I've always started quite at the bottom, but put 150% into what I do, and I think that people can notice that, and then they've given me a route to full progression. I think hotels was still interesting because you get to meet people, you get to experience lots of different problems and stuff, and there's still a lot of human interaction as well. But I think after the 18 months. The director of human resources said, "Hey, I think we want to start this graduate trainee program, like a management program, and we think that you'd be good as the first person to be on this program."
You went for this management training program. You said it took you about 2 years to sort of do all the different roles that they wanted you to do. And then what was the trajectory after that, all the way up till Zouk? How did that happen?
Right. So I did 2 years. And then I did a stint in Bangkok for about a year. Once again, I had to go and I was like working as a bartender, and then I worked at the front office and stuff. And by the time that finished, you were supposed to be a manager in the company. But they were very, very careful on who they're giving foreign work passes. So that was what they told me in the company. So they said I had to go back to London. And that time I was like, I'm ready to be back in Asia. So I went to I didn't have a job once again. So went to go learn Mandarin in China, right? And this is probably another kind of very crucial part of my life, because once again, I'm like, I just don't know what I'm doing with myself. But this is where I say that I was able to kind of connect with people in a very strong way in short periods of time. I got a phone call and I was like, "Hello," and this is William Mackay, the GM of Four Seasons Hong Kong, and I was if you're willing to meet me. And I was like, "Oh, when?" It's like, "Oh, 2 days from now." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So flew back from China, right? And one day I met him, the director of rooms, director of housekeeping. I think I met like 5 people, director of HR. And they offered me a management training program. And I remember saying to them, like, "Well, I've just finished a management training program. Could I just come in and become a manager?" And I remember them saying very distinctly, "If it's not a 4 seasons training program, it's not our training program." So I had to spend 2 years as a room attendant.
Another 2 years?
Yeah, as a room attendant. You are basically just cleaning rooms for like the whole day.
I imagine when that's the kind of work that you're doing, it's also tough because people speak to you a certain way or treat you a certain way. Was that your experience with it?
100%, because especially the fact is that, I mean, I could speak a little bit Mandarin, but everyone there spoke Cantonese, and they'll be like, "Oh, someone can't even speak Chinese, so they'll be talking about you and stuff." And it was just the monotony of it was just like, it just drove me crazy. Yeah, you have a lot of time to think to yourself, is this what I really want to do for the rest of my life? I think at the time it was really a good lesson in understanding that how every kind of cog, has a part in the system to allow for the overall running of this incredible hotel. So after that, I joined a company in Hong Kong. Within that 1 year, we acquired Zouk.
So you were in your early 30s when you took over Zouk and that part of your career started. I mean, frankly, to be in your early 30s and to be starting on something as massive as this is a really young age to be doing this. May I put something to you, and then you tell me how you feel about this?
Sure.
So, not to take anything at all away from your story, because you don't get where you are without that effort, that blood, sweat, and tears. That being said, you come from a certain background and you had your family and you had certain people who were willing to open those doors for you. So how do you feel about that part of your life?
No, for sure. I think, I'd be lying to myself that I didn't feel that my upbringing or my education or, who my parents' friends were didn't contribute to the opportunities or doors that were open for me. Like you mentioned, I think the door can be opened, but, no one's going to no one's going to back you if you're going to continue failing, right? I do feel in some ways that, even though the door's been open, I have paid some of my dues. It's not like I went straight into like a CEO position, right? And I think for me, it's just putting that effort in to continue to grow and to continue to improve myself and the business.
So firstly, why do you think you were chosen to fill that role?
Whenever you have these kind of new business, you need to bring in someone that you trust. Because that trust factor and integrity is extremely important. They felt it was a natural progression to come and then lead the Zouk business. And the Zouk business was big at the time, but I wouldn't say it is what it is now.
The thing is, you were relatively young for the role that you were placed in at that age. Did you experience any sort of pushback from people around you or difficulty because of your age at the time?
I think in the beginning, for sure, I think there was a part of me that was like, Huey brought me on. He's given me a chance. I need to show that he didn't make the wrong decision. I knew at that point in time that this was the right position for me and it was the right time in my life, and I had the right kind of mentality and motivation to make it go big.
Yeah. What was the right mentality and motivation at that age?
I mean, I honestly, everything was work. I mean, I had, I didn't have a relationship. I had obviously no family. I was literally on a plane 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. I said yes to everything. I just swallowed myself in work. Part of me was still proving to myself, and then maybe it's proving a little bit to my brothers, or proving it to my father, or proving to my mother that I can do something. I would say I'm in a much better headspace now, but I think that all those trials and tribulations allow me to become who I am today.
Yeah. Like you said, I don't experience you as that person anymore. I don't feel any sort of energy from you where you feel like you have something to prove to people. You're just doing what you're doing and you're happy doing what you're doing. That's what I experience.
Yes.
How did it get to this point for you? What did you do for yourself?
When you talked about when I was 32, like I definitely had some type of imposter syndrome at that time. I was like, but I felt that after COVID and us coming back and us pivoting with the spin studios and the restaurants and stuff and live streaming Lazada, I felt, oh wow, I need to stop second guessing myself and start believing that I'm the right person for this role. And I think over those years, because of those really tough kind of periods of time, I do feel that there was a level of self-confidence that came out that made me feel like I didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore, and that I was just comfortable in myself.
Let's talk about the business, talk about Zouk and what you've done with it. So you've taken it over. COVID, honestly, my personal opinion is that there's an alternate universe where Zouk, this thing that we love, could have shut down because of, irrelevant pivots or just a lack of vision during that time. Zouk did not shut down. In fact, you guys expanded, so Vegas and all that, and then other places as well. So during that time, what was the intention with all the things that you're doing?
The thing about Zouk is that we've always felt that there's been a huge sense of community around it, right? Whether or not it's community around music or community around, food or entertainment. And we just want to kind of like progress that into different verticals of the business. As we grow as a business, I think we took all those learnings from everything we've done in the last kind of few years, especially COVID, and we've now kind of created this ecosystem that we feel that, we've got community, we've got different verticals, we've got different global kind of hubs as well. So like if one country is down, like another country can go up. So for me, I think because I started my career in hospitality, I would love to be able to kind of bring it back there somehow. And that would really kind of create that circle that you and I want for the group, where you can eat, you can have choreo for lunch, and then you go for, TPF for dinner, and then you go for Zouk for, nighttime, and then you go back and sleep in a Zouk hotel. I think that'd be great. Just have them all doing it inside, playing inside our ecosystem.
Yeah. There's always that sort of struggle between wanting to keep something that we love the way it is, because that's why we loved it, what it was,
Yes.
And then just having to be realistic to adapt things to what the world is right now. Do you think that Zouk, in its original function, as it was when it started, could do well today if it did not evolve in any way?
In the Singapore market, I think it would have a fighting chance, just because I think the brand here is so incredibly strong. I think if you were to say that it was what it was like in Vegas, or Japan, or like some of these LA or some of these other markets I've been to, maybe not so. The trust as well that people have in the brand. I remember like people would say, oh, they don't let any of their children go to any like music festivals, but they'll let them go to Zouk, because it's like, you trust it's going to be a great time and it's like safe and everything, right? So I think even now when we look at some of our staff who've been with us for like 20, 30 years, just seeing that, when some of the customers come and they go, oh, I remember your mom and dad at Group Club. So, it's crazy, like to think like 30, 35 years, right? We've basically gone intergenerational.
It almost sounds like that's the story of you, right? You made mistakes, you had your ups and downs, and then you gave your 100 and sounds like 200% to be honest for a period of time, and then you are where you are now. I think now as a leader, you have the sort of background that not every leader has. In fact, very few, I think, where you literally did lots of physically dirty jobs. You put yourself through that. You did all of that for a long time, not just 1 or 2 months. So my question would be, if someone else right now is in your team and they're sort of starting off at the bottom, as a leader, what would you want to see from that person in order to trust that you could bring them up to a better position?
I think the attitude part is extremely important, right? Even if you're in a low position, you can put a lot of energy into what you do. And you can put a lot of passion as well. Someone could do it extremely well, but if they're doing it on a grumpy face and they're like complaining all the time, that's not the kind of person you want to be leading a team. As a society, we are people where we imitate a lot of stuff, right? Even if your parents, you imitate what they do once they grow up, what their value system is. So I think that attitude and that integrity, I think, is extremely important into how you build your company around.
And come from a place of almost authenticity, would you say?
Correct. Interesting enough, one of the things, even though I hated the public speaking, I realized that one of the strategies I did, for example, is that actually if I did more media, I actually had to do less networking because people kind of know who you are. So that was easier that way. So that was a strategy in itself.
Is that why you're here today?
Maybe. No,
okay. When your time at Zouk is done, whenever that is, what do you want Singaporeans to remember about your era of Zouk?
Oh, that's a big one. I don't know. I've never thought of that, to be honest. I honestly, I think Zouk is always going to be bigger than one person, even though I'm the spokesperson, or I guess the person leading the charge now. Being able to disassociate myself as Andrew the person and Andrew the Zouk CEO. It's been really important for me to be like, this is just a position. Right? This is something that you've had the opportunity to be in this position, but this is not what defines you. So I think the self-assuredness is that you need to be comfortable in yourself, and it doesn't matter what different parts of, it doesn't matter if you are like a CEO or you're a waiter or you're a manager. Being able to just be comfortable where you are, I think is more important than the fact that you've done these achievements or done those achievements. I hope they don't remember me for doing anything, but really how we've been able to build the community outside of what it was, and just be proud about what we've done. As opposed to saying what I want to be remembered by, I would say, I just hope the Singaporeans are proud of what we've achieved together.
Yeah. So I hope that Singaporeans are proud of Zouk too, because I think there are many people out there who are already, who will continue to be. May I show you something that I have for you?
Sure. Thank you.
So, if I could take you back to the start of the conversation when you were telling me about that period of time where you were not so proud of yourself.
Yes.
Probably.
Oh
sometime
wow!
around then.
Yeah, this was always like how old was I? Did you? Was he like? How old was he? Like 15 years old? 18?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And that was a difficult time.
Yeah.
You were saying.
Yeah.
So if you could speak to Andrew back then, what would you say to him?
Wow. I guess really it's I just trust in the process and that I think that you're gonna fail a lot through your life, but I think you're gonna end up hopefully in a good place where you are.
Well, Andrew, thank you for your time and
so
your
much.
honesty and your
Thank you.
energy.
Thank you.
It was really nice having you here.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Zouk now?
No, now back to go play with the dogs. Yeah.
No, Zouk now.